Oh, lots of nods. So it is my pleasure to welcome you here to Leeds for the IIIF 2025 conference. I'm sorry about the weather. I did promise people when we were in LA last year that we get weather here, but it's a great conversation opener. If you meet new people, you just go, the weather. That's kind of what we do. So yeah, it's great to have you here to start the conference. And I'm going to hand over to Caitlin, who's going to do the sort of rules for the day and the next few days.
Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to Leeds. A little housekeeping before we jump in, and I'll try and keep it quick because most of you have seen these slides already, but I guarantee that none of you have seen this particular Wi-Fi instruction. If you have Eduroam, you should be able to connect to the Eduroam network here. If you do not have Eduroam, you will need to find me or send me an email or send me a DM, and we will get you credentials so you can access Eduroam on your device. Okay. The other important point here is the code of conduct. So the IIIF conference, like all of our events online and in person, is meant to be free of all forms of harassment and welcoming to all people. You can read the entire code of conduct on the website. If you have a problem, you can talk to any member of staff. You can also talk to our current code of conduct volunteer, Rachel Hartshorn. Rachel has blue hair, so she's really easy to spot. Okay. Lanyards. You can also get help by looking for someone with a red lanyard. This is members of staff. It's also local people from our planning committee and people in Leeds. So if you have a question about the schedule, when you're eating lunch, or how to use the bus system, these are the people to talk to. Mics. If you are asking a question or you're doing a presentation, it is imperative that you use the mic. It's a really big, long room, and even the loudest people among us are going to be hard for people to hear on the other side. We'll have people running around to get you a mic. Restrooms are available on each floor right outside the door. There are men's and women's rooms and accessible gender-neutral bathrooms stacked on top of each other. I'll pause here. The website is the canonical schedule. Things have changed even since yesterday in terms of when things are happening. If you need to take a look at what presentations are coming up, what's happening tomorrow, and what your options are, you'll need to look at the schedule on the website. There are also these QR codes on the registration desk downstairs, and you could probably navigate there if you went to the IIIF website as well. Okay, did everyone take a picture? No one's saying, okay. The pitch I make all the time is to join us on Slack. Lots of you are already on Slack, but maybe you haven't joined the 2025 annual conference channel. Lots of updates are happening there, things like the internet is weird this year, but also people picking pubs to go to after the conference events each day. People will post links and interesting things that come up. It's a useful place to be. Okay, meals and breaks. There are 2 lunches each day. If you came down and you were having coffee, you could probably tell that there's not enough space for everyone to sit down and enjoy their meal in that space. So we will have an A lunch and a B lunch, and you can choose whichever lunch you would like. There will be programming opposite the lunch, so there will be things to sit here and watch. If you're not currently eating, you can make a determination about how hungry you are or which presentation is most compelling. But choose A or B. I mean, I guess you could sit there for the whole thing, but that would be a really long lunch. You're not assigned. Oh, I got so caught up in the logistics, I forgot to talk about allergies. There are vegan, vegetarian, and halal options available. Also, all common allergens are described on the buffet, but if you have a question, please ask one of the staff and they'll be happy to assist you there. Okay. And the big excitement, the reception is happening tonight at the Leeds Art Gallery. Depending on where you came, you may have passed it. It's only about a 5 or 6 minute walk. It is from 6 to 8 p.m. It's not a dinner, it's hors d'oeuvres and open bar. Okay, and then I would be remiss if I didn't mention all of our sponsors while we're up here. This is a revenue neutral event, and it's only possible because we have a lot of sponsors that help us make it that way. So first is Kakadu Software, our platinum sponsor, who is sponsoring our reception tonight. OCLC was our scholarship partnership. They made it possible for us to pay for 3 people to come to the conference who are representing underrepresented locations, interesting ideas, and new faces. Our gold sponsors, Digirati, For Science, and AM Cortex, most of whom are downstairs with tables, and if you have an opportunity to go talk to them, you should. Our silver sponsors, Glycerin, COGAP, and Google Books. Bronze sponsors, Performant and From the Page, and our academic partner, Northwestern University Libraries. Another thank you is to our program committee. We had a giant program committee this year, which was great because we had an enormous number of really high quality presentations. Huge thanks also to our local planning committee. This would not have been possible without the continued work of Claire Knowles and Karen Abel over the last year, and then lots of volunteers who helped us schedule dine-arounds, work the registration desk, build out the Leeds map with lots of places that you should all visit, and most of them are here today. So give them a thanks if you see them. Okay. And that's it for me until later.
Thank you, Caitlin. So this year provides us with an opportunity to reflect on 10 years of IIIF and since the Consortium was founded, and some of you will see yourself on that picture. So thank you to everybody for the work that's happened in IIIF. And you'll hear more about what's been happening over the last 10 years, but this is also a time for us to look forward to new developments and advancements. Coincidentally, it's 10 years since I went to my first IIIF event in Ghent. That was December in Ghent. It was slightly bluer sky. And I came away from that really inspired about what IIIF could do for our collections and our communities, and went back to my colleagues and was like, we need to do this. I know Scott's here somewhere. And then we were plotting of how we could implement IIIF. I've been really fortunate over those 10 years to work with the amazing IIIF community, colleagues and partners to implement IIIF, and be involved as co-chair of the outreach group with Caitlin to spread the word to others. So that's my challenge for you over the next 3 days, is to come away inspired with things that you can go, oh, we could do that, and why don't we try this? And what about if we did that? And to talk to others about that as well. And this also marks a big milestone for us here at Leeds, in that last week we launched our collections as IIIF enabled. So it's great to have you all here, and a huge thanks to everybody who's helped us with that implementation, and particularly my colleagues at the University of Leeds who's made that happen, and our partners at Digirati. So thank you all for coming today. I hope you have an amazing 3 days. You make lots of new friends and catch up with people, and that's my pleasure to hand over to Masud Khokhar, our university librarian and keeper of the Brotherton collection.
Good morning, everyone. I'm hoping you can hear me in the back. It's a real pleasure to be here. It's an immense pleasure because, firstly, look at this room. It's fully packed, and it's in Leeds, and it's about IIIF, and that makes me really, really happy. It's also a real pleasure to welcome you all to the City of Leeds, but also to the University of Leeds. As Claire said, I'm Masud. I'm the University Librarian and Keeper of Brotherton Collection at the University of Leeds. I've been here over 4 years and have been delighted because we've been able to do some amazing things, including some of the work that we've done on the IIIF collection at the moment. I'm only going to say a few words, but I thought what I'll do is give you a warm welcome to, well, kind of slightly warm welcome to Leeds. I'm sure when we pitched for the conference to come to Leeds, we very, very authentically said it's 360 days sunny here. Unfortunately, we've picked the 5 days when it isn't, so sorry about that. But we were also talking about actually what would it mean to bring a really community-driven organization back to Leeds. And it's great to have you in the UK, it's great to have you in Leeds. But what's really special about IIIF, it's its community power. I know I've met several of you in different forums, in different discussions, in different meetings, and it always inspires me, it always excites me, and it always gives me hope for what can we do together, which is bigger and greater than any of us can do on our own. And that's really special about this community and something we should continue cherishing for a long period of time. The other thing I would say is the city of Leeds is very, very well renowned for its innovations. And I'm not going to bore you with all of that. I'm sure someone has Wikipedia'd Leeds before coming here. Where is Leeds? How far is it from London? That's the typical question I get from anyone abroad. But there are a few things I would like to say, just to highlight the eccentric, innovative nature of Leeds. One, we are very big on health and medical technologies, health technologies as well. So the very first double hand transplant happened here in the city of Leeds in the world. X-ray was invented in the city of Leeds at the University of Leeds. Multiple Nobel Prize winners came from University of Leeds for that. But we don't do just amazing stuff on that. We also invented mousetrap. Whether that's a nice thing or not a nice thing, I don't know. I'll leave it to you. But I think the most important innovation that came out from the city of Leeds was fizzy drinks. Carbonated water was University of Leeds and City of Leeds production with J.B. Priestley inventing that, as with most inventions, accidentally. The reason why I'm mentioning that is because it's also a really exciting time to do more innovative thinking by being here at Leeds. And as Claire mentioned, I think this gives you an amazing forum to develop friendships, but also some of the best conversation happen in these kind of forums. You talk to each other, you think of new ideas, you think about how we can work together. So please make the most of that. Please make the most of that throughout the conference by learning from others. The program looks amazing. I'm gutted I can't be here for the whole conference. But at the same time, it's the networking breaks, it's the tours that you might be going to, it's the receptions, it's all those kind of things where the real quality of conversations come. So please take every moment and enjoy it to the fullest. And that's the kind of message I would like to leave you with. Any conference of this nature does not happen magically. There's so much visible and invisible effort that goes behind it. And let me just add my own thank you to the local staff who've helped host this, to the IIIF committee who've made this possible. This is a really, really great time for Leeds because we've also joined the executive committee, so I'm really excited about that as well. But also to the local planning committee as well for the conference. You've all worked really hard behind it, and it absolutely shows in the program, and I hope it will show in the success of the conference as well. That's all I wanted to say. Just a very warm welcome to Leeds. I hope it does get sunnier later, even today, or if not today, by tomorrow. And enjoy the reception this evening, enjoy the conversations, enjoy the friendships. It's the community spirit that's really important for IIIF. It's the community spirit that drives us forward, and I hope it continues to inspire us all in the future as well. Thank you very much.
And I'm now going to hand over to Martin, our Executive Director.
Can everyone hear? Okay, good, okay. Again, welcome to Leeds. I'm Martin Kalfatovic. I'm the Managing Director for IIIF, and I want to also thank the IIIF staff, especially Caitlin, who has done an amazing job working with the local committee, and Glen, who keeps us on track from a technological point of view. Last year we were in Los Angeles. It was sunnier in Los Angeles, but I'm actually feeling much more welcome here in Leeds in many ways. So this is Leeds from a couple hundred years ago, and we're zooming in using a IIIF feature through all maps, and there we are in Leeds. At the conference, we have many more than 240. We probably just ticked over 250 people at the conference, and they're coming from 24 countries around the world. So again, welcome from all around the world here to Leeds. The IIIF Consortium, since the last meeting, has grown. We now have all of the different members that we've had before. And since that meeting, we've had the French Ministry of Culture join, the National Archives UK, the KB and the Dutch Digital Network, Systemic Solutions from out of Sydney, the National Library of Finland, and just literally days ago, the University of Amsterdam joined as a member. So again, the consortium continues to grow. We continue to expand both geographically as well as content-wise, and that's just a really great thing to be happening at this time. We also did have the election for the executive committee in the last few months, and as Masud mentioned, we have had the University of Leeds join as a new member of the executive committee, and then we re-elected the British Library, Stanford, and the Bibliothèque Nationale. So this is our now full executive committee at this time. The operating committee is that organization part of IIIF that does a lot of the day-to-day management and that works with the IIIF staff to keep things going. Our chair is Tom Kramer from Stanford, our vice chair Rebecca Hirsch from the University of Edinburgh, our treasurer is Neil Fitzgerald from the British Library, and our three at-large members, David Newberry from the Getty, Simeon Warner from Cornell, and Rashmi Singhal from Harvard University. I wanted to sort of say a few words, and many of you may have done sailboat exercises when you're thinking about different kind of organizations, and I was sort of thinking about this in preparation for this meeting, sort of what is the sort of sailboat exercise for IIIF at this time? And so it's what are the things that drive IIIF and the consortium forward? So again, it's our strong product. The IIIF standard and the APIs are really key to maintaining a lot of the digital content from the cultural heritage and research sector. We have a dedicated community. If you just look around this room and look around the Slack channels, you'll see the dedicated community that IIIF brings to the table. And then there's artificial intelligence, and we'll come back to that. But sort of what are some of the anchors that are holding IIIF back? Again, time. We all have a limited amount of time. We have more to do with less time to do it. And again, we have financial and personal reasons in terms of shortages. So those are some of the things holding us back. Also, some of the reefs, and again, this is a phrase I've been hearing a lot lately, is austerity, authoritarianism, and artificial intelligence, which sort of flips on both sides of the dam there. But then again, we also have what are we aiming for? What is the IIIF Consortium and all of our members looking forward to? So again, expanding the community, working together, working as a community for all of these common goals. And then again, it's continuing service through the cultural and research heritage. So again, this is sort of one of the interesting things about our situation right now. Again, we have things like AI, which has a lot of great promise, but also a lot of great threats. So how do we work all of those things together? One of my favorite authors is Kathleen Fitzpatrick from a digital humanities person. And in her book, Generous Thinking, Kathleen mentions that this is generous thinking, listening to one another, recognizing that we have as much to learn as we have to teach, finding ways to use our collective knowledge for the public good, from the broadest rethinking of our political and institutional landscape to developing new ways of working in public, to focusing on the most intimate practice of listening. At each level, we must be connected to, fully part of, the world around us. And I think that's what IIIF does as a standard for our content and the IIIF Consortium as a community. So that's just sort of some brief comments, and now we're going to turn it over to the real great part about IIIF, which is what it really is. So we're bringing up Julie Winchester and Ronald Haynes, who are going to talk about IIIF version 4.
Thank you very much, Martin.
Yeah. Yeah, good morning, everybody. So I'm Julie Winchester. I'm one of the spec editors for IIIF, and I'm here with Ronald Haynes, who is chair of the 3D TSG. And yeah, we are going to be telling you a little bit about what you can expect from IIIF presentation API version 4. And we're going to sort of highlight in some of the work going on with 3D and sort of some of the progress that's happening with 3D, because it's really exciting. Okay. So, right up at the top, here is what's new in IIIF version 4. So, to start off with, we are introducing this idea of containers. So, you're like, what happened to canvases? Canvases are still there, but we're taking a step up on the abstraction ladder to this idea of a container. But your canvas is still there. It's for your image, your AV resources. Canvases, of course, have height and width and an optional duration. But one of the changes that is currently in the draft spec is that we are introducing the concept of a timeline. So this is why we need containers. Both canvases and timelines are both containers. They both contain resources. And a timeline is for audio-only resources. So instead of having a canvas that just has a duration, it doesn't have a height and width, that would now be a timeline. And I think a lot of people have heard about IIIF 3D. You know, we also, in presentation 4, we want to introduce 3D support. And so we are introducing a third container type, namely the scene. So scenes are for 3D resources, but you can also put images, audio, video in there as well. Compared to a canvas, which is sort of a bounded 2D area, a scene is an infinite, boundless space with 3 dimensions of coordinates, where those coordinates center on the origin instead of in one of the top corners like a canvas. And of course, scenes can have durations as well, which part of the reason why we decided to add timeline was to avoid, with canvas and scene by themselves, we started getting into these really complicated conditional hierarchies of, well, it can have either a duration or a height and width or this, and then the same was true for scenes, and it's just everything got a lot simpler when we introduced the concept of a timeline. To dig a little bit deeper into the scenes and how they support 3D. So they're going to give support for presenting 3D resources through both adding new annotation types and providing new approaches for working with 3D, which one of the core concepts of this is the idea just how you might paint an image into a 2D canvas. If you have a 3D scene, you will be able to take a 3D model and paint it into the 3D scene as a painting annotation. One of the ways that we are making that happen is your trusty old point selector is now gaining a third spatial dimension so that you can specify X, Y, and Z coordinates in a scene with your point selector. And you can also still have duration. You can still specify instant, so a model can show up for some period of time within the 3D scene. We are adding a new specific resource property called transforms, because sometimes you have a model, sometimes maybe you have 2 models that you want to compare, but one is upside down compared to the other, or one is really tiny compared to the other. So we have these specific resource properties for rotation, position, and scale, which if you worked with 3D before, that's probably pretty familiar. If you haven't, they're pretty straightforward. We're also adding a few new classes of annotations to be able to paint things into a 3D scene that you may need to have to work with them, like cameras, or different types of lights, or positional audio, so that you can say, I have a point in the scene, and I'm going to emanate audio specifically from that place. Just a grab bag of some other smaller things that we're also sort of having in presentation 4 spec. We previously had the physical dimension service for saying that this many pixels represents this much real world length. We are moving that service into the spec in a couple of properties, spatial scale and temporal scale, so that you can sort of associate your arbitrary canvas units with meter lengths. We are working to address the needs of the sort of AV motivations group for identifying when, if you have a canvas with a video and you annotate a text file, for being able to say that this provides closed captions to the video. This provides transcriptions, so to help sort of some of these accessibility use cases. And there's also likely to be more explanation in the spec documents of things that already exist in IIIF, but that may become more prominent for achieving some of our use cases, like content state, because content state has its own API. Right now, most of the API documents are showing you how to put together URL parameters that open up a section of a canvas. We will have more description, likely in the spec, for content state, for how to do things like to actually change the state of a content. Like if I want to turn models on or off, or if I want to move a model in response to some sort of user interaction, content state is going to be a way to do that. It's not necessarily introducing something new, but it will require some new explanation of how to do it. The spec document as it is now, if you go to the presentation API, it's all just one document. The structure of that is going to be changing. So we are splitting them into 2 documents, one of which is a model document, which that's your just the facts, ma'am. That's your classes, your properties. It'll be a lot easier to find individual properties. You'll just be able to scroll down the sidebar, go look at the definition for a property or a class. And then we're going to add an overview, which is sort of more a narrative introduction for people that are less familiar with IIIF. It's organized around use cases, like I have a single artwork. I have a 45 vinyl record, and I have some cover images associated with it. I have a simple 3D scene, or I have a really complex 3D scene. Just sort of walking people through how do the concepts of IIIF work, building up one after another. And I'm going to hand over to Ronald in a second, but I wanted to address real quick, what are the breaking changes from IIIF4? And I come to you with a message of calm, because it's not as much as you might think. It's really not. The focus going 3 to 4 is more on adding new things than on breaking old things. Compared to going from presentation 2 to 3, this is much less of a jump. Like, it's pretty straightforward going from 3 to 4. One of the few breaking changes that I can call out is because of the addition of timeline. If you have a canvas that contains only audio, in 4 that will become a timeline. I will say for most canvases with 2D image resources, you just change the context from 3 to 4 and you're good. But some property names will change, especially the property names that have the word canvas in them, because we have moved to this concept of a container. You know, so if your accompanying canvas becomes an accompanying container, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm going to hand over to Ronald to answer the question of, do I need to implement it now?
Thanks very much, Julie. Everyone here okay in the back? So first of all, I love the message of calm. We were thinking don't panic, as well as to infinity and beyond, but for copyright reasons, we're not going to use this. I love the fact that we're in the herringbone room in this cloth hall. Herringbone, of course, being a textile pattern based on fish bones, which are 3D. So we've seen the world through 2D because that's the technology we have. What we're trying to do now is capture the ability we have to reimagine that into 3D. Books are 3D, we've just scanned them into 2D. So that's part of our thought to try to make this all available. By the way, the reason we're staying up here is because there's a mic that we have to be by. Otherwise, we'd be sashaying down the place. So here's a couple of examples of what Julie was talking about. If any of you've had any experience with 3D, one of the things that happens easily is you load up a model and you're inside it, or you're in a satellite view looking down at a speck, as well as it's upside down or whatever. That's easier to handle when you have one object. It's harder when you get 2 or 3. And spoiler alert, that's where we're headed, is the ability to put multiple things together. In this case, we have easy examples from 3 different viewers, and we've been working with 4 and more. And most of the people working on that are in this room, one of them to my right. And what we see here is an example of the now famous spacesuit that's on the new stickers you have, but also scaled down and a mini-me next to it. And then you see it realized in 3 different viewers. All of this in open web technologies, all of this on devices that we have with us. So the universality of the interoperability is a key part. So multiple groups have been creating initial implementations, and these are examples of a manifest that's loading up these objects twice the same object. We go now to an example, or a set of examples, of things that different ones of us have been working with 4 different viewers. Actually, there's a 5th in there, but we're not going to mention. And we see a couple of examples, a 3D model with a 2D object of Van Gogh in the top left. And top right, we have 2 3D models put together. And we're hoping to hear the jazz concert from that spacesuit later. In the middle is, most of the people in the room who've worked on these things, is a reconstruction of an ancient temple with some annotation next to it. Bottom left is a nun cell, a medieval cell that's being presented. There's a medieval wedding chest from a group represented here in the room, and then some whale bones. In fact, there are 2 there put together. So the ability, just like medieval manuscripts were a really important case point for the beginning of IIIF, the fact that they're torn apart and need to be put back together, the opportunity will be there to put 3D things back together, pieces of vases that are in different collections. If we ever find the arms of the Venus de Milo, we could put them back together visually. So I think over to you now.
Okay, yeah. Awesome. Yeah, so there's a lot of very exciting experimentation in the 3D TSG. I feel like there was a good couple of years there where a lot of what the TSG did was, you know, we were just talking through spec. How can we realize things? How can we realize things? But as the sort of the spec now exists in the draft state, sort of being turned over to the editors and for you all to provide feedback on, the 3D TSG has moved into this really exciting, really active experimentation phase. And you are all welcome to participate in that. I think Ronald will say a little bit more about that, but I just wanted to give a few pointers to like tooling and support that already exists for 3D stuff. So there is a IIIF Commons for 3D group that meets every couple of weeks that's working on a lot of this stuff. They have produced and are continuing to improve actually a plugin for the open source 3D asset creation software Blender that actually allows you to import and export IIIF manifests from Blender so that you can put your models in Blender, move them around, export a IIIF manifest so that you don't have to, like, you know, handcraft JSON. Manifesto.js is a JavaScript library that's existed for a while to help sort of read and consume and understand IIIF manifests. IIIF Commons Group, we've been working on basically producing a branch of that, and it will get folded into the main eventually, but we do have a branch of that that has support for reading and working with 3D IIIF manifests in JavaScript. And there's a bunch of other things going on in terms of demos that we're going to talk about in the Birds and Feather group. Smithsonian Voyager has a demo of their scene editor that can save IIIF manifests. Actually, we have a number of demo viewers at this point from Compact, Voyager, X3D that you can put a IIIF manifest in a URL. It'll load it into the viewer. I'm going to talk, I think, at 11 about this, but on MorphoSource, we've actually put really early IIIF4 support in on production. And our production 3D viewer, you can actually feed it your 3D manifest from the web and sort of use it as like a test sandbox. And for X3D, they actually have a demo with like where you could put the JSON in like a text input field so that you can actually play with it live, play with the manifest live, and sort of see how it changes things. And on the subject of support, I just wanted to mention for people who are thinking about like, okay, well, what does my migration process look like? Am I late to the party? You're not. You have plenty of time. Like the spec is not likely to be fully published. Presentation 4 is not likely to be fully published for a year. So viewers are going to take time to catch up. And if you're still on 2, it is totally still worth going 2 to 3 because there's good tooling, good support for that. And once you're on 3, it'll be very easy to go to 4. So it's still very worthwhile 2 to 3 as a pathway. Okay, then I think Ronald's going to talk a little bit more about the TSG experimentation stuff.
Thanks very much, Julie. So as mentioned, a number of people, a number of groups and institutions have been involved with this for some time. And I'm sorry, apologies if I've missed anyone because it's all on the website, I assure you. But actually what's missing here is some of you. So the Europeana project had recently a Twinit project where they challenged every member nation to come up with one object, at least, in 3D to kind of give a representation. That's what we are hoping in a similar sort of way. Every one of us has some 3D material somewhere, and it would be great to get more people to help in the experimentation phase, which is also to kind of get you used to it and get us all making sure that we've covered enough of the use cases. Spent a lot of years on use cases and user stories, but there are always going to be sort of question marks. We want to make sure it's as universally available. And as we've already demonstrated, there are viewers which you can try out. Think of it as viewer as a service without having to put all the infrastructure together. So in this experimentation, you can join in the process and give it a go, and let's see how that goes from there. And in the process, we'll add more people and more material for a larger showcase, and hopefully some humorous stories, which I know some of our colleagues are always looking for interesting, quirky things. Good. And with that, I'll turn over back to you.
thought you were gonna-
Thing. Yeah, I'll do that. Thanks. So the call to action, we have links which are readily available, website, notes from here, of the model of what the spec will be, plus an overview. When you get to 3D, there are more dimensions to cover. So we are going to have at least 2 documents with the technical spec and then a better background explanation, particularly for those who might be new to it. And we're also working on a guide that will include some of the recipes that will end up in the cookbook as well. So we're going to cover this from multiple angles, as is the appropriate thing for 3D. Please join us for the Technical Specification Group Birds of a Feather workshop on Thursday morning, if you are available. And we'll take you through some of the ability to do this yourself. There also is a community session that the IIIF editors are running in Thursday afternoon, which is a good feedback session as well, once you've immersed yourself, or come if you can to that just to interact. In the future, also, we have regular 3D community group sessions, which is where the technical spec came out of, and it continues to work with that to introduce people new to it, to keep track of developments, and to share ideas, and participate in the 3D technical spec discussions about 3D support as we go along, and help test and experiment with viewers and manifest with your data. So we want to see you online. And with that, I think we'll close. Thank you.
Hi, how are you doing? So I want to talk to you today about the fantastic work the community is doing on the technical side. I'm going to talk about a number of different projects, and they're all done by volunteers in the community. We're always welcoming new people into these different groups, so if anything takes your interest, please contact me and join one of the calls. It'd be great to have more volunteers. The first project I want to talk about is Cantaloupe. So Cantaloupe, from surveys, is one of the most popular IIIF image servers. And I think many in this room are probably using Cantaloupe as their image server. It's maintained now by the IIIF community. So we've got a number of people which are listed here which are volunteering, meeting every couple of weeks to add issues to Cantaloupe and also to maintain Cantaloupe, to do big bug fixes and add new features. We had our first community release in March this year, which is version 5.07. Which we merged a lot of the kind of historical pull requests. So Cantaloupe had gone a bit stale for a while, and so having this volunteer effort means that we can bring in new features, bring in bug fixes which have been outstanding for a number of years. We've also worked with Khokhar, one of the conference sponsors, so it's a good JPEG 2000 library. We've clarified the license with Cantaloupe, so it's now supplied with a demo license. We've also updated support for various libraries and technical dependencies in Cantaloupe. So that was released in March, and now we're working on 2 different versions. So one in the near future, looking at 5.08, again with some updated libraries and some bug fixes. And then later on in the year, we're looking at version 6, which will be a more, again, upgrading other libraries to major versions and doing lots of different work. But as you can see, there are only kind of 4 volunteers working on Cantaloupe. And so this is a big call. If you're using Cantaloupe in your institution and you have some Java developers particularly, it would be great to see more volunteers. With many of these projects, the more volunteers, the less work everyone has to do. And so the more volunteers, the more sustainable these things come. So if you do have Java developers and you're using Cantaloupe, please do get in touch and join one of the calls. It'd be great to see you. Another one of the areas of work we've been looking at is the Internet Archive. So we've been working with the Internet Archive to add IIIF support to everything in the Internet Archive. And there are millions of different objects in the Internet Archive, images, videos, and so it's been great to make that all available as IIIF. And this has been a multi-year effort. So since the last update, which we gave in the last conference, we've added reviews as commenting annotations, so you can add book reviews to items in the Internet Archive, and that now comes through to IIIF Manifest. We're improving IIIF support version 2, so it supports version 2 and version 3. We've made the version 2 support a lot faster. We've added auto-advancing for audio resources, so you can use it like an MP3 player and listen to all the songs. We've improved thumbnail support, and we're also asked to work on securing the code after the Internet Archive suffered a cyber attack in October. And so we did that, and that was available. It was down for about a couple of weeks, and we worked on securing it, and then we were able to make the IIIF service back available, and also other numerous bug fixes. But the most exciting thing we've added to the Internet Archive is IIIF content search. So a lot of the items in the Internet Archive have been OCR'd, and they have annotations that we made available in the last sprint. But in this sprint, we've added content search as well. So you can take a manifest from the Internet Archive into one of the IIIF viewers, go to the search tab, search for an item, and then it will zoom into the page where those text is available. It's been really fun working on a lot of the Internet Archive stuff, and I dare to say this, but we're running out of issues and features to implement. So if there are things you want, please go to the Internet Archive GitHub and add features for us to work on. It's a really good product, and again, volunteers are welcome to work on that, both in testing, suggesting ideas, but also developing new features. Another big community effort is with the cookbooks. The cookbooks are examples of how to use IIIF, so we're up to 69 different recipes. Each different recipe shows you how to do a particular thing in IIIF, so it might be multi-language labels, it might be how to do a video, how to do subtitles. They're all kind of individual recipes, which as users you can kind of copy the manifest and work with them. You can also see them in viewers to see what different viewers support and how they make these different features available. And it's been a really successful project for a number of years. We're up to 10 different viewers which are available on the cookbook. So if you're looking at what features the different viewer supports, you can go to the cookbook and you can see the matrix to see which different features different viewers support. We have loads of volunteers actively writing recipes, and also a group of cookbook editors which review them before they're formally approved by the technical review committee to make sure they're a valid use of IIIF. And they also have kind of text explaining about how the recipe works. So I mentioned we've got 69 total recipes. We've had 10 recipes submitted to the TRC, which reviews them since the last meeting last year. And as I say, we've got 10 viewers in the matrix, which is absolutely fantastic. We've also been looking at what the cookbook's going to look like with version 4. So this is just a prototype, and we welcome feedback and suggestions about how we're going to do this. But at the moment, we've got the version 3 there, and then a link to the version 4 of the example recipe. So again, these haven't been approved, but just to show you some examples. This is a kind of the basic image version of cookbook. This is a very basic recipe. And we had a look at that in version 4. And we also linked to the viewers that support it. So none of these viewers have actually done any development work to support version 4. But just to echo what Julie and Ronald were saying earlier, for many of the items, the changes are so small that the viewers don't even notice that it's a new version. So for this particular image one, it's supported by Mirador, Universal Viewer, Anona, Clover, and Theseus. It's unfortunate that some of the kind of more compliant viewers, they don't work because they check too much, but the ones which are a bit more lax tend to sail it through, so we're rewarding them here. So for images, it seems to work mostly out of the box. For audio, which has this new timeline class as mentioned, does actually work with a surprising amount of viewers, even though that's a new class which hasn't been implemented before. Video, again, not very much difference. Video, it's only the context. And again, that seems to work in most of the viewers without any changes. And then we've also got an example of a basic 3D model, which of course none of the viewers will support because that's one of the new things that we've implemented. But working with a 3D group, there's lots of work to create viewers to support 3D, so hopefully it won't be long. Alex, I'll pass them to Caitlin.
Okay, so in the interest of time, I'm going to try and get through this in about 60 seconds and get to the thing that everyone really wants to hear about. One, outreach group is now turning into the ambassadors. Even if you don't want to join another community group, this group is here to help you. Over the last year, we have been supporting people while they go out in the world and spread the news about IIIF. We are translating materials that already exist. We're creating kind of bespoke things for people to take on the road with them and designing the cool 3D sticker that you can get downstairs. But we are here for you. The IIIF is the scaffolding that supports the work of the community, and this is a part of it. We have heard over and over again that the thing that the IIIF community wants is more advanced opportunities for learning and workshops and expanding their IIIF knowledge. So in the past year, we have had over 300 completely free workshop spaces available in all of these different areas. So if there are workshops or there's things that you want to learn about or things that you think would be of benefit to the people in your organization, let us know. This is something that we love to be able to provide. And then a quick update on things that are happening in our community groups. So we have a whole bunch of community groups. You're probably familiar, they're all on the IIIF community calendar, but a few things that are going on now is our new annotations group, and I don't know if Rashmi's here, but that's led by Rashmi Singhal and David Newberry from Getty, and they're working on developing recommendations for scholarly annotations, and they meet on the third Monday. An accessibility group is currently in the exploratory phase. If this is something that you're interested in, you may want to talk to Brittany LaPierre. She's doing some work there. Our AI ML group needs chairs. I'm hoping that everyone's going to leave this conference very, very excited about AI and machine learning opportunities for IIIF, and if that's something that you're jazzed about, let us know. And the AV group is great, but they are missing one person. So if you want to be the AV chair, please let them know. I know John Dunn is here, and he would love to meet. He's waving, saying, please help us out. Okay, and with that, I am going to hand it over to Claire to make the big announcement, which is what kind of weather we're going to have in 2026.
So yeah, as we're opening the conference, I get to announce where we are next year. And for those of you who were here yesterday and have got good eyesight, you might have gained something from the image that Martin showed. So next year we are, I'm hoping this works. It works. We are hopping across the channel to the Netherlands. So we will be in the Netherlands at the first week of June next year. So yeah, same week we will be in the Netherlands, and huge thanks to the Dutch National Heritage Network who are hosting us. We haven't put a city there because we will be doing a little tour of the Netherlands. So the showcase and the conference may well be in different cities. So do keep an eye out, and we'll be releasing more details as we get further with prep. But yeah, you know which country you're going to be in next year, same week. Thank you. Yeah, does Bob want to do a wave? Who's? Oh, there he is. Yes.
So I'll introduce you. Okay, so I'm telling Claire not to leave because she's our first speaker. So we'll have two presentations, then we'll have a brief break, and then we'll come back. We're going to be in this room for the whole day. So I would like to welcome not just Claire Knowles, but Tom Crane from Digirati to present IIIF, OCFL, and Century Scale Preservation. Do you want this, or do you want the... This you just got to pay attention to.
Hi everyone, it's me again. I promise it's the last that you'll see me speaking. So we're going to talk to you a bit about the work that we've been doing here at Leeds with IIIF, OCFL, which might be, I'm going to do a hands up. How many of you know OCFL? Okay, but it's new to quite a lot of you, so that's good. The Oxford Common File Layout, so that's another acronym for you to learn, and what we've been doing with preservation as well. So we've been implementing IIIF as part of the Digital Library Infrastructure Project, or DLIP. We love our four-letter acronyms, don't we? And this is a 4-year institutional project as part of the university's digital transformation programme. You can see we're right in the middle in 2025 and coming to the end of phase 1. And the aim is to improve search, access and use of our rare and unique items, our cultural collections. So you can see why IIIF fits into that project. And it's also to deliver a resilient technical infrastructure. We all know how important that is to make sure it's scalable and resilient, especially as we undergo increasing attacks on our infrastructure and bots using them. and to add solutions and open standards. Again, you can see how IIIF would fit into that. So there's 4 key areas to the DLIT project. One is to update our cultural collections website to improve our user experience, and we did the first part of that last week when we implemented IIIF in the existing website, and then we're looking at how we take that forward in phase 2. A modern data platform, so that's what we've been doing, and huge thanks to Yale, Getty and the Rijksmuseum who've been supporting us in our adoption of linked art, and storing and managing of our digital surrogates and digital born content. So that's our born digital archives and content. And a technical infrastructure, as I said, but also to enable for our digital humanities. And Simon and Cassie and Eddie from the DCCH are here, and we've been working very much with our academic colleagues to do that. So I'm not going to read through these because you don't need me to hear about all of our principles, but it was really important for us to develop principles for the project to help us when making decisions to make sure they fulfilled these principles and kept in line with them and to sort of what the core of the project was. And one of those, as you can see, is open standards and collaborativeness. And again, that's why we adopted IIIF. And now I'm going to hand over to Tom.
Sure. Is this microphone working all right? Yeah, I think so. So obviously, one of those principles can easily be followed by adopting a standard called IIIF that maybe you've heard of. So that's a kind of given, I assume, while we're here. But if we've got that as the kind of presentation end of our infrastructure, this new infrastructure, this luxury of having a kind of greenfield development, that allows us to use any view we like and use any sorts of components. It gives us a kind of a given capability through a standard at this end of the infrastructure. And also, on the other side of IIIF, we've got a kind of another explosion of 1,000 flowers blooming in how we get all the content resources and metadata into IIIF. The point here is that we are establishing a width restriction at the standards point, which gives us all the benefits that all these 10, 12 years of IIIF have given us, this kind of API interoperability by having a width restriction in our architecture through which stuff must go, which is the IIIF API. So the question is, can we do that on the, that little thing in the middle there is, anyway, can we do that on the other side of the infrastructure at the preservation end? Because part of the whole point of this is that it's great having the ability to show all this stuff today in IIIF, but it needs to be preserved for the long term in a, ideally following the principles in a standard that can be understood in years and decades and centuries to come. And I'm going to hand back to Claire for a second.
So coming back to these principles, the standards, collaborative and resilient, that's sort of driven us. That's why we also decided to adopt OCFL as another standard. And this is because we wanted to make sure we had that restriction. And that's both how we make things accessible, but how we preserve them. Our collections have been with us for a long time. They're going to outlive and me and our technologies. And we've had them for hundreds of years, and we want to make sure they're there for others hundreds of years. So how do we do that? When we look behind the scenes and go to the file stores, it's not easy to see what's there to pull things out of systems, and we're very much reliant on the systems. And OCFL enables this, so you can go and look at a file store like you look at your local ones on your laptop or your Google Drive or SharePoint, etc., and you can see the structure. So it enables it to be readable at the file level. And this was key for us, that we've got our content and we can keep it safe. And if things went catastrophic, we could go back to that file structure and be able to see what we've got and pull it forward to then show the viewers and everything that builds on top. This is our foundation. So this is where we decided to adopt OCFL. OCFL, and this is sort of, you're all familiar with this is what your file structure looks like, describes a way of arranging files and directories to store multi-objects, and this enables us for digital preservation. One of the other reasons we adopted OCFL was it has versioning within it, so we can have versions to show how things are available and the story over time, and it does it in an efficient way. When you create a new version, you don't store all the files, just the changes. So it's also file system agnostic. Where is our content? Well, it can be anywhere, and we can choose things and we can move it from being on site or in the cloud. And this is a way to show the content, but obviously most people won't see this, they just see what comes through on the website. So we're not going to go into the details of OCFL, but what's key is that it can be readable for people coming forward and different layers on top. And it should describe within it, what are you seeing in this file structure, what's available there. So OCFL means that we can put things there and we can find it in the future and we can change things. So OCFL was our goal, and Tom's going to tell you how we got there.
Yeah, so we now know what the width restriction on the other side of the content is, and it can be stored on disks or in cloud storage. But how do we actually get to that point? And so the technology we've chosen to do that is Fedora, which many of you are very familiar with. And the key thing here is that Fedora 6 is an OCFL implementation. So that on one side, it has an API to do nice things with and make it easy for us. And on the other side, it writes OCFL to disk. So we don't have to worry about writing it directly ourselves, even though we could do that. We use the Fedora repository as our intermediary. So, apparently that's job done. We can just say to, the solution we've built, we can just say, well, everyone at Leeds, you've got this Fedora repository and it will write OCFL, so just use that. Well, that would not be a good idea, because Fedora is far too powerful and flexible to actually make that a sensible way of going about things. So we need something in front of it to kind of preserve the kind of purity of writing an OCFL file system and making it easy to address the various digital preservation workflows and use cases and storage requirements that Leeds have that emerge through use cases during the project. And this is this key point. Yeah. Now, this is not to denigrate Fedora, because it's fantastic, but it's our gateway to OCFL rather than the end in itself. And this is a kind of schematic of the infrastructure that we've built here. So we have Fedora, but nothing in the entire infrastructure talks to Fedora other than this API called the Storage API, which offers a very simple model to clients. It basically executes jobs to move stuff into Fedora in versioned objects. But very few things talk to that. Most of the infrastructure talks to the preservation API, which implements the use cases. So it's used by the digitization workflow for storage. It's used by the archivists when they're assembling born digital content for archiving. It calls the storage API and save things, and it manages kind of the more workflow and use case centered activities. And then it's also called by a IIIF builder, which listens to events coming from the presentation API and picks up new things that could be made into IIIF and pulls them out of the preservation API and pulls some descriptive metadata, which will be linked art eventually from the catalog API, and builds IIIF manifests and publishes them to IIIF Cloud Services. So again, at both ends of this pipe, we have standards, IIIF at one end and OCFL at the other, and in fact linked art in the middle. And here's just a quick example. So there is a user interface we built on top of the preservation API. This piece of, so Leeds have been migrating content from ePrints through the preservation API. And so as well as writing code against the API, you can also do stuff in the UI. And this is a fairly simple example of just a digitized object. This is a deposit where you work on the object before it becomes part of the repository. You can fiddle around with it and get approval. And then it becomes an OCFL object, an archival group in Fedora speak, in the repository, and you can examine it in there. But then that gets picked up by the IIIF builder and turned into a IIIF manifest that can be viewed in the viewer. And so this pipeline is just sort of working away in the background, turning the preserved objects into IIIF. Now, maybe this is a provocation, I hope people will disagree with me. So suppose you find on a disk an OCFL file layout, and because the person who made that disk 100 years ago followed the advice and kept a copy of the OCFL spec in the root of the disk, that's great. You can kind of recover you can understand that it's not just a bunch of millions of files. These are versioned objects, and you can understand, you know, the kind of layout of them. But how do you see them? How do you haven't got that whole stack of IIIF infrastructure. Now, is IIIF ubiquitous enough that actually there is some argument to be made for IIIF as an access mechanism for the far future, just some kind of representation of the object stored in the preserved object in IIIF form as a manifest? Now, you might be storing the structure in METS or some other format, but the manifest is maybe playable, and maybe you could include a copy of the IIIF spec as well, and a tiny little web server, and a very level 0 static IIIF representation of the object, so that, you know, there is more fuel for the reconstruction of this object in the future. So that's one aspect of this argument, but there is a more compelling argument that Claire will give now.
Yeah, so what do we have in our present for the future, and how much do we keep? And how do we store that? And how many derivatives do we have in our IIIF manifest? The manifest is relatively small and easy. I'm hoping easy translates for us to store and put in. It's not taking up lots of space. But how many do we have when we're creating lots of different versions and lots of different views on our content? Do we store our exhibition manifests? If we're using them in teaching, where do we go for that? But by storing these additional manifests, we help tell the story of our objects over time, the different versions, how it's been used, where it's been used, not only how it came to us, how it's displayed, but also the use of this object over time. So this is one of the things we want you to think about, is what's in our present to the future. So yeah, these are things that we're looking at, what we would keep, and this is questions for us as we go forward and take forward this for digital preservation. Our annotations, are they just for access, or are they also for preservation? Which annotations? Where are they stored? Which ones do we keep? Our exhibitions, which we're creating for the viewer, do we also put them back into OCFL to store them for the future? So this is something that we're really keen to look at. And as you all know, alongside the technical work goes all the policy work and the decision. And this is something for us to look at in the future, and our provocation for you all. Where do we store our IIIF when thinking how we look at things in the future? So thank you very much.
Thanks, Claire and Tom. Our next speakers are from the Wellcome collection, and we have Jonathan Cates, and is Christy also coming?
She will be here later. So
Okay.
You just got me.
Okay, so we'll have Jonathan from the Wellcome.
Oh, thank you. Fantastic. Thanks for the lead in there, and as a provocation, I think it worked really well, because I'm already provoked, and Tom knows very well which bits of that we don't have at Wellcome, and it's already making me think about which bits of that would be nice to have at Wellcome. So thanks for inviting me here today to speak on behalf of Wellcome Collection, and for the opportunity to reflect on our experiences working with IIIF since its inception, and in fact I'm going to talk about since before its inception. As you gathered, my name is Jonathan, and I'm the Technical Product Manager at Wellcome Collection. My background is in libraries, archives, content discovery, digital collections, but this is my first IIIF conference, but I very much hope to be at the next one, and the one after that, and the one after that. I do want to start by offering some apologies for the brevity here, for overlooking any key contributions or contributors, or any other omissions. There's plenty of blogs and papers out there that tell parts of this story, so I'd encourage you to seek those out or ask me afterwards. I'll be around, happy to share more. And I would also say that whilst it's a great privilege to be here, I've got a strong sense of imposter syndrome, because there's a room full of experts here, and I'm fortunate enough to work with colleagues, Christy, who will be here later today, and partners like Digirati, Tom Kramer, who I've already mentioned, who've worked on this since the very beginning. For my part, I'm a newcomer. I've only been at Wellcome for a couple of years. Having said that, I would make one personal reflection on this. I vividly remember attending an event at Wellcome in 2016 for the launch of the newly digitised UK Medical Heritage Library. UKMHL was a partnership project between JISC, Wellcome and the Internet Archive with 9 UK institutions. At the time I was product manager for the now sadly defunct JISC historical texts. To cut long story short, I remember being told there and then about the promise of IIIF for breaking down silos and working with content and collections across institutions. And at that point, as you showed earlier, it was really a budding framework with a small number of really motivated partners. But it was already clear what potential there was to create a standards-based, community-led methodology that would accommodate the nature of museum, library and archive collections. And here we are 10 years later, and we're still talking about it. So that already tells me that this isn't a flash in the pan. We've got 250 people here. So thanks to everyone who's contributed to IIIF. Okay, so Wellcome Collection, I just want to quickly talk about who we are. Simply put, we're a free museum and library, and our vision is a world where everyone's experience of health matters. Wellcome Collection, since the inception of IIIF, has been on a bit of a journey itself, and that's why I wanted to just draw this out. We've got a mission that consists of 3 parts: to seek out opportunities for everyone to contribute different forms of knowledge and understanding towards a healthier and equitable future, giving a voice to a more radical imagination of what health is, to make meaningful connections between different perspectives and stories of health, past, present and future, with our collections at the heart. And our priorities, which we have 4, this is our new strategy, to create new knowledge and understanding towards our mission, to mean more to more people, and ensure that our collections contribute to a more equitable future, whilst developing our teams and their practice in pursuit of our mission. And I think it's fair to say that our digital collections, and by proxy IIIF, play a key role in delivering the vision, mission and priorities set out in the strategy. So, with that in mind, let's rewind a bit to where did this all start. So, Wellcome followed, and with thanks to contributors for telling me how this all panned out, it followed the prevailing model 15 years ago, and it started out in a silo. And when I say silo, what I mean is, it was a kind of standalone implementation, site and services built to our use cases. But that silo marked our first collaboration with Digirati and led to the development of the Digital Delivery System, DDS, in 2012. And this was all kind of pre-IIIF and bespoke, if you will. But from what I've read and understand, I think it was kind of still recognisable in that it responded to many of the same use cases that we're still talking about here. So in the Wellcome player, as it was then, that served up deep zoom images, and underneath it there was like a JSON file that sort of did the same thing as a manifest. I mean, that all kind of makes sense if you think that the IIIF evolved from kind of existing practice and kind of standardised those things. But of course, no sooner did this come to fruition that we became aware of IIIF, and I think that was some discussions with British Library at the time and others. So we became aware of the image API and presentation API and the work that was going on that. So we worked to shift to provide IIIF presentation API manifests and IIIF image services. And the Wellcome player, we talk about kind of legacy and contribution to IIIF, the Wellcome player evolved into the universal viewer. And at the same time, I guess our needs and requirements around hit highlighting and search within helped inform the development of the search API. So we were kind of evolving or aligning with the standard as it was then. very soon we were really motoring. We were working on large-scale digitisation projects. I'm talking like up to 1 million images a month. And that's only really possible because of our infrastructure that we had. So working with partners from Digirati and from Intranda and Internet Archive. Otherwise we just couldn't have hit that scale. And we wanted to make sure that this was kind of future-proofed and that scalability continued. So we pivoted from the kind of on-prem solution to cloud-based. So that led to the development of the Digital Library Cloud Services, or DLCS, again with Digirati for the IIIF image APIs. And I think, sorry, I'm taking a breath because it's a rush to get this in 15 minutes. Yeah, that led that kind of helped us make sure, or we believed that meant that we were future-proofed, and it made it possible to integrate more seamlessly with our evolving digital products. So, what did that evolution look like? Well, gradually we were able to sync our approach by leveraging more or less the whole suite of IIIF APIs for image, presentation, for search, as I mentioned, authentication and authorization, so that we had a true IIIF experience, if you will. And at the same time, Wellcome was on a journey to transform its own digital offer. So we did have, as many institutions do, have a bunch of different catalogues and sites or sub-sites. So we had Wellcome Images, Wellcome Collection, Wellcome Library. That process to draw all of those strands together to provide a single search over those through our catalogue API, that's been something that's been ongoing for the last 7 or 8 years, to the point at which we are effectively fully cloud-based. You can read more on our GitHub. It's all open there if you want to have a look at how we've arrived at the current welcomecollection.org. But it still continues because we're thinking about ways in which we can integrate our collections better with our stories, events and other website content to make a more meaningful digital experience. And it's worth saying that we've continued to work on creating rich visual experiences. So our images have been at the heart of some of the, well, pretty much the most innovative features that we've released, notably colour search and visually similar images. And we know from the metrics that we have that our images and any features that are driven by images get the best engagement of anything on our site. So we're always interested in thinking about how we can leverage those more. So what else have we done? Yes, this slide. On the left, you see here a manifest. You know what a manifest looks like? On the right, this is where I really like to kind of wander off. On the right is a screen grab of one of our works, a works page from an archival tree on the left. On the right, there's a directory of all of the Born Digital files. So in the last 12 months or so, we've made available our first Born Digital collections on welcomecollection.org. So this is a pretty exciting and new thing. So you can go and try that out if you like. There'll be more of those. We've got lots of things I think to think about in terms of how we scale that and how we deliver really massive stuff. So we had a big Born Digital accession last week, several terabytes of like 4K and 8K video, thinking about like derivatives and all of that. From a presentation perspective is going to be an interesting one and a cost question as well. Okay, so future focus. What are we still working on and what's next? Well, I think it's good to have seen the Internet Archive search within highlighted earlier on, because I think the question of how we aid discovery of the contents of the full text of these works, which is kind of clumsily titled, clumsily written question there, I think that's really, really key, because we have, and this was a number that I we discovered the other week, with thanks to Tom, we have billions of words, 14 billion words in our corpus. We could do so much more to make that accessible to people, or to even make our users aware that we have those words and to do something with them. So I really, really want to do that. But I also want to make more words available. So the image on the page there is from a palm leaf manuscript, which we have at Wellcome. It's in Sinhala script. It's MS326. It's originally from Sri Lanka, and it's one of the thousands, tens of thousands of manuscript collections that we have, which don't have any associated text at the moment because we haven't done any HDR. We've done heaps of OCR, but we haven't done any HDR. But I cite that example in particular because that's the sort of thing where HDR couldn't read anything like that until recently, but now there are models that can read that script. So we want to make more words available, and we want to figure out how we can do stuff with that. We have been working on what we call the Wellcome Collection Knowledge Graph, kind of our version of linked art, I guess you'd say. I've heard that mentioned this morning. That's some recent work that we've done which we think is fairly foundational to where our work's headed, and that provides us with new ways of traversing the collection based on people, organisations and concepts that we know are in the collection. There's a really, really great blog post about this by our machine learning engineer, Antonio Langfelder, which tells the story in more detail. It's linked from our Medium page. I can provide the link to you if you'd like. But what we want to do is to connect more people with the contents of the works themselves. So that will entail using kind of established NLP techniques like named entity recognition to add more nodes to the graph. But we also want to think about how we can reflect all this back in IIIF so that we're looking at how we can annotate works accordingly. We haven't really looked at it, but we need to. All of that, my bullet points are kind of out of order because they're kind of touched on using HRT and VLMs and the like. It's against the backdrop of AI. I really think that's a separate presentation, and the kind of sailboat metaphor earlier on is like where we position our engagement with AI and what we do is an open question at Wellcome. We are very interested in that, but there's a bunch of options where we can't and no one can do all of those things. I would also add one kind of note of caution, and that is around performance and resilience and the impact of bot traffic. We've seen lots of warnings about this over the last 6 to 8 months. We've been impacted a little bit ourselves. How do we make sure that the kind of openness of these collections is something that remains the case in the long term? Because we want to be open, we want bots to read us, we want humans to read our collections, but as Wikimedia said, our collections are free, but our infrastructure is not. And that's going to be a real challenge, not just for us, but for many other institutions. One other thing, if I were to ask you or my colleagues what is Wellcome Collection, you might say, well, it's the stuff that you have there on site, but actually, Wellcome Collection is much more than that. It's a bunch of stuff that we hold physically, virtually, or that we don't hold at all. Here's an example at the Science Museum. That's just one place where we have more than 100,000 objects on long-term loan. They make a small number of those available. Well, not a small number, a decent number of those are viewable in the Wellcome galleries there. But those are also digitised, and lo and behold, it's IIIF. So there's a manifest. So how can we do more to present a unified view of what Wellcome Collection is? Well, the answer, as with so many use cases, part of the answer, I should say, as with so many use cases, is IIIF. I'm not saying we're going to do this, provide a unified Wellcome collection, but we're really thinking about that. Another use case is, so we have exhibitions where, which are comprised of works from many different institutions, some of which we have, and you can see on our catalogue, but in many other cases you can't. So if you want to come and recreate the experience of the exhibition that you saw at Wellcome Collection, you can't do it on our site. IIIF obviously means that you might be able to do that. So we want to explore that a little bit more. Again, realising the long-held potential of IIIF. That time already, final thoughts. I'd just like to finish with a quote from Christie, which I thought was inspiring, so I thought I would include it and read it out on her behalf, who said, "The growth of IIIF worldwide has been inspiring, and this is down to the hard work of the exec and coordinating committees, editorial and working groups, the community's provision of practical guidance and training and dissemination through events like this one. The most exciting thing about this increasing adoption is the ethos of openness that comes along with it, driving change and increasing the societal benefit of our collections globally." Thank you.